And at 14, I made a statement that I was going to do something to help humanity. But when I made that statement, I also knew that I was going to come up against the established or prevailing philosophy of life. That I knew at 14 years of age. When I told my mama that I had cured my 13 AIDS patient, she said, "They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you." When I'm in my office on February the 10th, here come the detectives. "You are charged with practicing medicine without a license, selling product not approved by the FDA, and claiming to cure AIDS and other diseases." I said, "Yes." "Well, you are making a fraudulent claim." So knocked on my door and took me to jail. But the funny thing about it, I was happy. I was very, very extremely happy. When everybody in my office was crying, I was happy because my mama told me they were coming. And I knew that I had sufficient evidence to prove my position. Not only scientifically, empirically, historically, and whatever way they would desire. So while I was in jail, I'm saying, I wonder what defense they would have against me.
Yeah.
I would like to know. But I didn't blame the Attorney General, Mr. Robert Abrams, because why should he accept from me the statement that I cure AIDS and sickle cell and blindness when no one else has ever made those claims? The man had a right to arrest me, but he was making a mistake. So I'm sitting in jail, and I'm happy. When I got out of jail and when I went in front of the judge, I asked 3 questions. "Your Honor, is it a fact that the Holy Bible teaches that the herbs are for the healing of the nations?" She said, "Yes." "Is it a fact that science shows that the human body is carbon-based, and to complement a carbon-based body, you must have a carbon-based substance to complement it, because the body only accepts the substance through the process of chemical affinity." Chemical affinity is important. It's an electrical transfer. Chemical affinity.
Okay.
The body could only accept what it is made of, not something new or alien to it. Last question. Your Honor, is it a fact that the father of medicine, Mr. Hippocrates, the man that established the principle of medical science today, cured every disease known to man, did he use herbs or chemicals? She said, "Herbs." I said, "Thank you very much. I rest my case." So I understood that the state were unprepared to defend itself. They were unprepared because in the past there was 2,781 cases that came before the Supreme Court and lost. I won. Not only did I prove scientifically, but I had the diagnostic sheets, and I do have them today. And those diagnostic sheets didn't come from me. They came from their school, their American accredited, medical accredited school. The case that I won was a powerful case. The white girl who liked me, and I didn't know it, she called me one night about around 8 o'clock. She said, "Could I come and see you?" I said, "Yeah." She came over. "Ruby," she said, "you did something that has not been done, ever."
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? They already groomed a young lady to obliterate what you did. "What you mean?" He said, "Well, they already groomed a black girl, and they got a few leaders that is helping." And guess what it was? When I won that case, a week after winning that case, what was the most publicized news throughout the United States and the world? Tawana Brawley was raped.
Oh, yeah.
I told Annette.
Right.
Black America never knew that. Tawana Brawley was never raped. Because the mushrooms, as you know, the mushroom world is the highest electrical world there is in the vegetable kingdom. This is why the Russians use the mushroom to clean up Chernobyl. The mushroom come from a world they call the mycelium network. I learned that in Mexico. The mycelium network is a network that grows about a foot under the top of the soil out there, just a foot under. It grows like a web, spider web, and when the ozone level is right, they spring up. There is an ant in Brazil. He's a stupid ant. The ant knows the strength and the power of the mycelia, and he eat it anyway. But the mycelia are going to trick the ants. Because when he eat the mycelia, the ant's going to die. But the ants find his way all the way up to the top of the tree, and his head bursts open, and the mycelia uses him to spread himself throughout the valley.
Wow.
They recorded that, and that was strange. The mushroom world is the most electrifying world. They come from a different arrangement altogether. When I ate the mushroom the first time was when I loved the devil. I love the devil. And the mushroom did that. So I said, Mama, I said, why don't you eat these mushrooms? She was in Florida. So I gave her some. My mama locked the door. And she was in there for about 20 hours. And when she came out, guess what this woman gonna tell me? Son, I said, yes, Mom. Do you give this to all your patients? I said, no. She said, you should give them this before they begin the treatment. Look at her. My mama saw stuff. My mama saw herself being born. So when I ate it, I was in Chicago. And I saw the devil. And the devil said, why you go around telling folks you love me? I said, because they told me that God made everything. And that everything God made is good. The devil said, you low down. You tell that to the Christians that always run away from me. I'm God's best friend. I know that. Satan. You push people to God. Say, why aren't you afraid of me? I said, well, God, if God is my savior, why should I be afraid of you? Africa has some from the Congo. They're purple. When you eat them, you will see tomorrow. These mushrooms are so powerful. Look, we could tell you stories. I want to hear your side. I want to hear my side. And Swaziland is a country that grows something that would change your thinking in 4 hours. Where you used to be 400 years ago, you will go back in a matter of 4 hours.
Miracle.
It's not a miracle, but it acts like a miracle. Your brother's right. It's an herb that when you take it, it takes you back to your childhood. And you begin to see yourself and your activity and all those things that you experience in life. And sometimes we get to the age of 40 and we say things like this. You know, I had some bad experiences. You had what? You had bad experience? Well, how come you're alive? Everything that you experienced was supposed to be experienced by you. If you were not supposed to experience what you experienced, how come you experience it? How come it happened? Remember what I said. Anything God made is natural. Anything man made, not so, and will hurt you. That is a fact. So I cannot talk about the country that said to Dr. Sebi, Dr. Sebi, whenever you want to return to Africa and begin this new empire, you have 5,000 acres of land and 6 hot springs. I don't need anything else. Hot springs? 5 hot springs with 5,000 acres of land? We could grow food. We could make the best dress. I said, sir, I am not going to come to your country unless I'm able to grow marijuana. He said, marijuana? He said, wait just a minute. He said, I can't do that. I said, well, the compounds I've been giving your nephew that had
that was autistic that now is talking was marijuana. And as for you is concerned, when I came here, you weren't walking. You were dying. Now you're running up the steps in the presidency. Yes, marijuana. That's a God's product. Everything God made is good. Well, I know that. I live that. And I always will smoke it for as long as I live. Why? Because I have that right. But the one thing I noticed today and yesterday, and you may have heard it, President Clinton and Sanjay Gupta, they found the end of AIDS. But they're going to tell us that they're going to bypass these lesser diseases and jump on the major one, and they got the cure for it. I got documents to substantiate that I cure AIDS, right? When I was in Zimbabwe, the Department of Health said, why do you come to us saying that you could help us? And your leaders in America didn't help you. My leaders in America? What do you mean by that?
The leaders are at war. They're all in disagreement because among the leaders, you find Muslims, you find Christians, you find Buddhists, you find all of that. And they all seem to disagree with each other's position. The politician, well, I don't know what role politics play in our progression health state. How we see it, again, is that we are not together on any issue that is pragmatic, that's going to elevate us in producing something for our own existence. You know something? Curing AIDS is easy. Curing sickle cell is like play for me. Diabetes, we cure 10 a month. Yet, there aren't any centers in Germany that is beset with diabetes. There aren't centers in the United States that cure diabetes. We cure diabetes. Now, what are we going to do now? I would like to hear the excuse. I would like for someone to take this particular entity to the leaders of America, and I would like to hear the excuse that they're going to give us for not supporting it. A chemical cannot assimilate with the human body. An herb can because they are electrical. Herbs are electrical, and we have yet to understand that. I was concerned with the black leadership of America, not medical science. When I had cured these people of sickle cell and lupus and herpes and blindness, I was happy. I said, now I could go to all the leaders. I could go to Minister Farrakhan. I could go to Jesse Jackson. I could go to Al Sharpton. I could go to Oprah Winfrey. But what I found out, I was mistaken. I was wrong. They are not interested in the healing of any black people. My first patient, my very first patient, I was a steam engineer working for the county of Los Angeles. And this blind man had heard that I was experimenting with these plants. And his neighbor said, well, why don't you take it? And he took the plants, and in 2 days he was seeing. And he was blind for 11 years. That shook me. Being a steam engineer, I knew that the pH value, the pH factor, had a lot to do with healing. And the herbalists then, like the herbalists today, are unaware that the pH factor has a lot to do with it. Meaning this, I said that if God tell us that the herbs are for the healing of the nations, in the book of Genesis, in the book of Ezekiel, in the book of Exodus, and the book of Revelation, it says that the herbs are for the healing of the nations. Then as I go further into the history of medicine, this is what I found, that the great Hippocrates used herbs to cure disease, and that he cured every disease known to man. This man was curing every disease in Greece 365 years before Christ was even born. There could be something locked someplace that prevent us from accomplishing the goals that Jesus Christ and Hippocrates accomplished. When I went to work that night, I found it. I laughed. Oh, I was so happy. I was extremely happy
because I said it is required of us to maintain the pH at 6.9. At 7, which is the neutral zone, pH of 7 is neutral. And if it is slightly on the acid side, it's 6.9. And the reason why we maintain the pH at 6.9 is to keep the tubes of the boiler clean, that there will be no life form in there. But if the pH is 7.1, oh, now you're going to experience life. Life form will begin to accumulate in the tubes of the boiler, preventing the radiant heat or the convection heat from reaching the tubes. I said that if life was so powerful that it could exist in a temperature of 450 degrees, then the herbs that heal would have to be alkali on 7 plus instead of acid 6.9. It was my steam engineering experience that helped me in herbology to understand the herb that God made. Yes, it has to be made by God. I was 47 and I was 10 years on the job, seniority. And I was making a lot of money. And I had a wife and 2 babies and 1 on the way, and I quit my job. God said, you're going to quit. If you're going to starve, you're going to die starving, but you're going to quit this job. And I left, and I was put in jail, and, you know, all the whole bit that happened to me in New York. I was arrested in St. Martin one night. I was taken to jail in Curacao. Oh, it's been a journey, but it's been nice because it was like a test. I remember being down to only $400. When I started this business, I only had $400. I started this healing journey with $400. And here I am today. From the day that God created this universe and made black people, how many years it has been since God placed black people in Africa? Do you have any idea? The anthropologist has no idea. But it would spout out these numbers for you. That God made the universe 9.5 billion years ago. So the other is, when did he put black people in Africa? They say 1.5 million years ago. But what was the food that God placed in Africa for these people? Certainly, it could not have been potatoes. It could not have been rice or beans or yams or chicken or hogs or cows. It could not be a goat or a lamb, because all these things are hybrid. God did not make these things. These things came just recently, only 4,000 years ago. So what were we eating in Africa before we were taken away? What were we eating in Africa before there was an invasion by the man from Europe? We simply do not know. And our life began long before there was an Imhotep. Egypt was already eating ducks. Egypt was already hybridizing animals. Egypt became a mixture of Greek, Persian, and African. This is the thing about Egypt that is confusing with many of us. Well, with me, it was never confusing. Why? Because I could see realities in my face, and maybe I am interpreting this reality my way, and maybe so. But this is what I saw. In 1972, every brother in Los Angeles, under the leadership of Dr. Joseph Ben Yochanan, they were going to Egypt. And I was saying, now what are they going to Egypt for? But they were flying to Egypt. And then when they came to ask me, Brother Kamal said, why don't you go to Egypt, Dr. Sebi? Or Sebi? I said, for what? A bunch of stones? But they went. And they came back with souvenirs. But when I went to the jungle, I didn't come with any souvenir. I came back with healing. I came back with Sia. I came back with Kankansa. I came back with Popa. These herbs are electrical. They assimilate. Those who went to Egypt, they came back with these souvenirs. Or a piece of rock. Well, who needs that? Egypt was not like Mexico. Mexico was thoroughbred. This is why today the descendant of the Mexican has a level of integrity
that nobody on the planet has exhibited. Not even the Egyptian in Egypt today exhibit that level of integrity. And don't talk about the pyramids, because the pyramids in Mexico,
Oh yeah.
you could put the Egyptian inside of them 4 times.
Yeah, 4 times. Yeah.
You understand?
Oh yeah. Oh, very much so.
But the Mexican people are so humble that you would never get that from them. They, and they alone, are the only people on the planet that is cosmically in tune, a Mexican.
Right.
No Egyptian, no African, a Mexican. And to prove that, when I was sick, I went to black herbalists, I went to Chinese herbalists, I went to white herbalists, I went to Arab herbalists, I went to Mexican, 90 days, I'm here 52 years later, doing what that man said I was going to do. I was placed in an insane asylum in New Jersey in 1961. Schizophrenia and paranoia. So I'm schizophrenic, paranoia, I'm impotent, I'm diabetic, I'm asthmatic from birth. So I go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And the man asks me, where are you from? I said, I am from Honduras.
Yeah.
He said, we cannot talk. I said, why? Because black folks doesn't come from Honduras. Maya come from Honduras. Maya and Paya and Lenca.
Yeah.
So where you from? Oh, I'm from Africa. Now we're talking. Now because you are from Africa, do you believe that God was drunk when he put black people in Africa? I said, no. Well, do you believe that he put a diet there for you? I said, sure. And what's the diet? Rice and beans and potatoes and yams and cows and hogs and lamb. He said, not so. That's not the diet of an African. What is the diet of an African? He said, the same as the Toltec and the Olmec. All that which is native. This little girl, 23 years old, came up to me and said, are you Dr. Sebi? I said, yep. She said, you know, I've been watching you for months. And I don't know why I want you to be the father of my baby. I said, you're crazy. How old are you? She said, I'm 23. I said, I'm 77. I could be your grandfather. She said, I know that. Not only you could be my grandfather, you're black, you're old, and you're ugly. But I still want you to be my baby's father. So what you gonna do? I said, I don't want no baby with you. So I walked away from Pamela. Pamela insisted and insisted and insisted. And one night Pamela got pissed off and came to the village for the first time. Came in my hut and said to me, I want you to tell me what is wrong with me that you don't want to make love to me. And she broke me down and we made love once. She got pregnant and she was the happiest 23 years old. And when she was pregnant, she dreamt every night with my mother. I said, my mama been dead 4 years now. You don't know my mother. I know your mother. I said, how are you going to connect with my mother and she died? She said, well, I know your mother. She come in my dream every night. And my baby going to look like your mother. And my baby was born the 26th of March. No, the 26th of February. She's Pisces. The same day with my mama. And the baby looked just like my mama. She was given to me when she was 8 months. Because the poor little mother came down with postpartum depression, Pamela. I had to take care of this baby. But I'm 78. But Tawa grew up drinking sea moss and hemp milk. My baby now, Tawa, where's your brain? Tawa, where's your liver? She knows every part of her body. That's the street. That's the power of you women. The power of the woman that the men never had, never will have, or don't even know about. But we men have a tendency to deny that, to negate that, to want to suppress that, to control that, when it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that ever. My mother wanted me to be a preacher. And I didn't want to go into the church. I said, who, me be a preacher? No, I'm not going to be a preacher. And look what I'm doing now. Look what I'm doing. My mother, I called her on my birthday 2 days ago. And she was laughing. She was laughing. She said, you see,
what I wanted you to do, what I see you doing, you're doing it. Only because people are being healed. That is the work of a shepherd. So what I did was to recognize that black woman in the jungle. She's the one that set the standards. She's the one that raised the bar. She's the one that lives in an alkali environment. She is the only one where there is a history showing that she didn't have a doctor and she didn't have any medicines. She didn't have any hospitals. Why? She lived in direct compliance with the life process, in direct compliance with the laws of life, in other words. How could she be sick? How could she get sick? To the marketplace. And I would ask the woman in the marketplace, why do you use this herb? And they would tell me. I would go to the marketplace in Africa. Why do you use this herb? But they would give me these empirical, historical documentation. Well, guess what happened? I would catalog the herb, bring them with me, and send them to Lancaster laboratories, asking them to tell me what is the active ingredient in these plants. And if that active ingredient doesn't associate, doesn't connect with the disease that they claimed that they were using it for, well, I know that they were in error. But guess what happened? Every herb that I got from those people who we considered natives, indigenous, when the reading came back from the laboratory, they say yes. But how did they know? I had to send the herb to Lancaster Laboratory because it is the leading laboratory in the world when it comes to biological or biochemical research. You know how they know? Just like the gorilla know what to eat. The gorilla doesn't have any nutritionists. But you and I, who went to school, who were educated and civilized, we need a book to eat right. We want to worship God, go buy a book. You want to see your way through it, go buy a book. Well, how come these people in the jungle doesn't have all that?
Book, right?
Because they are connected. I don't care what degree you may have. If you are cosmically connected, you cannot see. You are blind. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I saw many of us do that. I'm not a healer. A male cannot be a healer. It's a female.
Right.
So whenever a man come tell me that he's a healer, I know he's lying. It takes nurturing. I cure AIDS, I cure sickle cell, but that doesn't make me a healer. It's much more than that.
Well, I had known Randy over the years, Randy Jackson.
Yes.
Michael Jackson's brother. So he came upstairs. My brother want to see you. I said, who? Michael. Michael? Michael want to see me? I'm the least of the individual that people want to see. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. And I told him that I would be able to help him. He couldn't sleep. He was in a very bad emotional state.
What did you do for him?
What I did for him was this. I gave Michael an intracellular chelation. An intracellular chelation means that I'm going to clean every cell that makes up every organ that total is biological. Because he was full of a whole lot of drugs, you know, the pharmaceutical drugs. Couldn't sleep. His nerve was shattered. So I began treating him. And at the ending of the period, he was doing good, and I left. And guess what I found? That there's only one disease. Not two, not three, one. I say, Your Honor, there's only one disease. When someone has sinusitis, what is obstructing the nasal passage? She said, mucus. And when another has bronchitis, what is obstructing the bronchial tubes? She said, mucus. And when another has pneumonia, what's covering the cells of the lungs? She said, mucus. I said, Your Honor, have you been to an AIDS ward? She said, yes. I said, what is it that the AIDS spits up every 5 minutes? She said, mucus. Where is the mucus? It's in the skin, it's in the blood, and the lymphatic system that makes up the immunological system. That is where you find the mucus.
A little girl in New York named Haja that was brought to us with a hole in her heart. She's now 16. A little girl was brought to me in Atlanta that was blind from age 8 to age 11 with a tumor on her frontal lobe. She no longer has the tumor on her frontal lobe. Her name is Mecca. And there's a little girl in Minnesota. Her name is Akila Stroud. She no longer has sickle cell anemia. And a month ago, I gave a lecture in New York, and a young lady came forth and said, well, I don't have lupus anymore. So these kinds of things tells us that we, the black race, has the answer, but we are afraid to take that responsibility because we live in fear. We're scared of white man. We're scared of God. We say that we fear God. I don't know why people fear God. What I believe is to eat food that came out of the product of life itself. I don't care whether you're Chinese, Eskimo, Arab, or what. If you eat something natural, you're going to be healed. The plants also shows us that there is a genetical marriage to the whole cosmic arrangement of things. So now, we find that in nature, there is and there should be an obedience for one to live to the optimum level of life. One has to be obedient to the cosmic arrangement. As we take a close look at the Homo sapien, we find that he is the only one that feels that he is not bound to such law. And in feeling that he is not bound to the law of life, he have committed various violations. If you operate outside of life vernacular, then naturally, common sense tells us that we are operating outside of life vernacular. Then what vernacular are we operating in? The vernacular or the environment of death. Sure, there is a direct link with environment, food, and genetics. There has to be. So right now, it is our health. Our health is the most important thing. Our health is what will bring us together. Our health would have us loving ourselves and others. But as for the meantime, our health has been disregarded. And then we are fed mathematics and anthropology and archaeology. Our health is most important. Without that, nothing could be achieved. The same as religion, because when we talk of religions, there isn't a religion in the world that asks you to eat the food that God made. Every one of them undermine your health, whether Christianity, Islam, Buddha, Shinto, or even the Bhagavad Gita from India. They all eat garbage. They eat starch and blood. So what is the benefit of me being religious? I am not religious. So I hope that this information will be assimilated and utilized, because we're living in times in which we are experiencing a high degree of stress, in which we are responding to each other like we are other than a human being. So we are asking you to please at least give this perspective a chance, not for our sake, but because of your own sake. Your Bible teaches you that the herbs are for the healing of the nation. Your Quran teaches you that the trees are for healing. Well, we don't want to really go astray from that. Let us be obedient, at least for once in our life, to God Almighty. And I thank you very much.